Dearest friends, House of the Dragon Season 3 has premiered at perhaps the busiest point in Preston Jacobs' life. And for this reason, you may find the adventures of Chad Summerchild missing from the reviews. And you may find that during some weeks, there's no review at all.
Boo! He has too many other projects. He needs to focus on the Winds of Winter. Boo! You're fat and you're gonna die. Brandon Sanderson should take over your videos.
Simmer down now. Chad Summerchild is not your bitch.
And our episode begins with Wet Blanket Reyna, everyone's favorite character in House of the Dragon. Totally better than Nettles in every way. And Reyna has been spending weeks, ever since Season 2, Episode 7, trying to find Sheepstealer so she can claim him. No search party yet, eh? King Consort's daughter has been missing for weeks and nothing? No one cares? No Amber Alert? I mean, those sheep have to be owned by somebody, right? Like, the shepherds haven't been like, hey, there's a black girl with silver dreads, like, wandering the Vale. Maybe you guys should look into that, but no, nothing. Nothing at all. Apparently not. And Reyna successfully mounts Sheepstealer and becomes a dragon rider. Yeah, isn't this a bit of a coincidence? What do you mean? Well, as you said, Reyna's been following around Sheepstealer for weeks, and this is after many, many long years of being unable to ride dragons. And here she just happens to claim the dragon right before the Battle of the Gullet. I do admit it's a bit strange.
Dude, you guys haven't heard of the Grand Suicidal Dragon Conspiracy Theory?
Wait, there's a Grand Suicidal Dragon Conspiracy Theory?
Oh yeah, and it totally explains everything. You see, the dragons are conspiring to kill themselves. They're all depressed.
And what evidence do you have of this?
Well, you gotta remember that Viserys specifically says that the idea that the Targaryens control the dragons is an illusion. The dragons are the ones in control. This is well established in Season 1. And so, accepting that the dragons are in control, we gotta go back to the beginning of the war. Remember, back at Storm's End, Vhagar acted independent of Aemond. Aemond couldn't control him. It was Vhagar that killed Luke and his kin Arax and started the whole war. And then at Rook's Rest, Vhagar attacks Sunfire completely illogically.
Illogically? Aemond yelled Dracarys.
That was Vhagar telepathically controlling Aemond. Remember, the dragons are the ones in control. And then for some reason, even though it was suicide, Meleys goes back to fight Vhagar. Meleys wanted to die. Sheepstealer's actions later in the episode are just all part of this suicidal pact that the dragons have. They all want to die.
Seems a bit far-fetched.
Compared to the alternative? That after weeks of wandering around following Sheepstealer and a fucking lifetime of not being able to ride dragons, that Wet Blanket Reyna just happens to mount Sheepstealer right before the Battle of the Gullet.
Anyway, next Aemond is looking for his brother Aegon, so he pulls Grand Maester Orwell out of bed and accuses him of helping the king to escape. I'm sorry, in what universe does this make sense? What do you mean? Why are Aemond and Jasper fucking Wild looking for Aegon in the middle of the night? And why would they be accusing the Grand Maester of conspiring to help Aegon? And why would that be treason? Something to do with the fact that Aegon is in a raven carriage? Let's walk through the events here. Aemond decides at 3 a.m. to check on his brother and possibly kill him? And then he finds an empty bed, and then decides to wake up Jasper Wild of all people to help find his brother. Why? Why Jasper Wild? Were they friends or something? Is Jasper Wild somehow pro-Aemond usurping the throne? What conversation were they having at this point? Oh, hi, Ironrod. I know it's 3 a.m., but can you help me find my brother? I was planning on killing him and usurping the throne. Then they somehow decide that Grand Maester Orwell helped Aegon escape, and that's somehow treasonous, and they should pull him out of bed and threaten to execute him? I mean, just help me here. Help me understand this. What is going on? All right, Brandon, honestly, you need to step back and take the checklist approach to the episode. Then everything makes sense. This is the season premiere episode. We're trying to get an update on all of the characters. They all have to appear. So we've got Orwell and Jasper Wild. They need to be shown. And it doesn't matter what they're doing or if it makes sense at all. They just need to be on screen. A checklist? Yeah, it's actually rather zen. Just Accept the checklist. And so next the checklist brings us to Aegon and Larys. And is Larys in character? No. Is he a creepy weirdo like he was in every other scene before? No, of course not. He's not even masturbating and he's a completely new character, but it doesn't matter. It's the checklist. Why are they traveling through black-controlled land? Wouldn't it make more sense if they escaped south? Shh, Brandon. Just accept the checklist. And then we go to Dragonstone to check off Rhaenyra and Jace and Baela and the useless characters. Mysaria, Grandmaster Gerardis, Lord Celtigar. Is this scene needed and does it make sense? No. It's just a summary of the pile of shit that the end of Season 2 was. And no one even mentions that it's ludicrous for a mother to sacrifice her own son, but it doesn't matter. It's the checklist. We then make it to Poker Face Alicent talking to her son Aemond. She clearly isn't up to anything. I'm assuming Aemond accidentally put his patch over the wrong eye. Anyway, Aemond, to Alicent's surprise, has decided that he's not going to Harrenhal to support Criston Cole. And this is essentially the plot of the first half of the episode. Aemond is not going to Harrenhal until he is. Well, they clearly needed something for Alicent to do. They created an episode-specific conflict for her to resolve. Yeah, Aemond says he suddenly needs to defend the city, claiming that Aegon's flight has forced his hand, but of course that doesn't really make any sense. Aegon is injured and Sunfire is missing. Aegon wasn't defending anything that Aemond now needs to replace. Well, yeah, that's all true. Later on, we find out that the real reason that Aemond is staying behind is that he's scared. According to Helaena, he doesn't want to face Rhaenyra's dragons. Dragons in the plural? Isn't it just Caraxes at Harrenhal? I mean, the dragon seeds are there too, but Aemond doesn't know that. I'm just going to assume that Helaena misspoke about the plural dragons. But yeah, in episode 8 of season 2, Helaena does warn Aemond that he's going to die at the God's Eye. So despite Aemond being bonkers and crazy and fearless, and his dragon being fucking enormous, and him having already battled 3 dragons in one, and him being the only person alive with dragon battle experience, there is at least some logic to his fear. Helena's prophecy. So let me get this straight. Aemond was going to go to Harrenhal, but then Helaena tells him that he's going to die there, so he gets scared. And then Helaena tells Alicent that he is scared, and so Alicent has to convince Aemond to go to Harrenhal, which leads to Aemond making out with his mom. Like, Helena's meddling led to no change in the story, except for Aemond making out with his mom. Had she done nothing, he would have gone to Harrenhal and not made out with his mom, but instead, he goes to Harrenhal having made out with his mom. Yeah, Helena's master plan is pretty fucked up. She doesn't really care about the war or her family members dying. She just wants Aemond to make out with his mom. Which brings us to Daemon and Oscar Tully. Covered in blood. Way too much blood. So we were promised fish feed at the end of season 2, but it was off screen? Apparently, this seems to be cleanup. Alright, at some point the checklist is too much. I mean, what the fuck is Daemon doing? He's a dragon rider. Why is he on the ground hacking up bodies, helmetless? Don't they have hired help for that? And somehow they gathered up enough firewood for all these bonfires, but they didn't actually end up killing everyone? I mean, this is the king consort and a dragon rider. Why is he doing this job? Could you imagine this in any other war, like a pilot landing their plane, getting out so they can finish off mortally wounded dudes? And also, he's been on the ground so long that he didn't see the winter wolves approach? Has he been, hacking bodies for 2 days? How did he not see a walking army of thousands of old men approach when they were just battling with Jason Lannister? Seriously, one flight would have spotted them. I don't, what's the point of the dragon? What are we doing? Shh. Checklist, Brandon, checklist. Hey, did you also notice the dagger watch? Dagger watch, dagger watch, dagger watch, cat spot, dagger watch. In 70 years, Aerion Brightflame is going to take that dagger and stab it into Dunk's hand. It's incredible. I mean, I get that's not the cat spot dagger, but still, it's cool. Anyway, we get Hugh of the Vale's very flesh-colored head. Honestly, Daemon is paler than that thing. And then we're back to the checklist. What's Gawain and Criston Cole up to? Waiting around for Aemond, pondering death. And then we get to the dragon seeds. Waiting around for Aemond, pondering castles. Whoa. What's the timeline on this? How are these guys here? What do you mean? Well, I mean, Alicent's the one that tells Rhaenyra that Aemond is heading to Harrenhal. And the dragon seeds have been hanging out on the God's Eye long enough that they're bored, and long enough that they think Aemond isn't actually coming. But Rhaenyra just told her council that Aemond was heading to Harrenhal and that she was going to leave in 2 days. So when exactly did she send her dragon seeds to the God's Eye? Was it before she told her council and no one noticed that 3 dragons disappeared? Or was it after and they just arrived here and they're already bored and have already concluded that Aemond isn't coming?
Checklist, Brandon. Just accept the checklist.
Alright, well, we then get back to Wet Blanket Rhaena and no one cares. And then we get back to Alicent writing a letter, and for the life of me, I don't really understand the letter. Later on, Alicent's cousin reads it and then halts his army, so I imagine it's because she doesn't want the army in King's Landing when Rhaenyra invades, but the army is somewhere along the Mander, presumably west of Tumbleton. Realistically, they are weeks away from King's Landing. Rhaenyra should have already invaded by the time the letter arrives.
Ah, but Brandon, you are presupposing a world without jetpacks. Anyway, Helena continues on her plan to get her mom and her brother to make out, and then we get some checklist time with Alan and Corlys before finding out that the Triarchy is here. And then we get one of the most baffling pieces of dialogue in the entire series of House of the Dragon. It's really a doozy. So let me read it for you. The gullet has 3 inlets into the Blackwater, the largest of which opens just south of Driftmark. But I hold strongly that we must press towards the southern inlet. If our armada engages the Velaryon fleet at close combat, it will blunt the threat of Rhaenyra's dragons. They will be loath to burn their own ships. So, point number 1. This conversation happened right after they were spotted. The Velaryons are going to engage with the Triarchy no matter what. Their choice on which inlet to take is irrelevant. But point number 2, the gullet has 2 inlets, not 3. I mean, maybe they're counting the mostly north-south passage between Driftmark and Dragonstone, but that still makes Tyland's geography nonsensical. Because point 3, he says that the largest passage is just south of Driftmark, but they should take the southern inlet. That's the same inlet. The large inlet south of Driftmark is the southern inlet. Which brings me to point 4. Tyland wants to take one of the inlets so he can engage at close combat. But all ship battles are close combat. This is not a world with cannons or torpedoes or anything else. Ships can only engage with each other at close combat. For the most part, they just crash into each other and they board each other. Yeah, you can have some archers, but that range isn't very far. It is absolutely amazing that Tyland can speak so much gibberish. Well, he is master of coin, not master of ships. But he used to be master of ships for like 20 years. Well, I guess he's rusty. Anyway, we then get back to Wet Blanket Rhaena, where Sheepstealer barfs up some food for her. Now they decide to feed Wet Blanket Rhaena, right before she's gonna head back to civilization. What's she been eating for the past few weeks? I imagine sheep? That's the irony. She's the Sheepstealer. Anyway, we then get to Ormond High Tower, and a boy who clearly isn't a secret Targaryen, and they receive a letter from Alicent that says that Aegon is dead, and that they should wait around for further instruction. First of all, the boy who clearly isn't a secret Targaryen sure took the death of the king well, but how fast was the horse that brought this dude to the Hightower camp? It's at least 500 miles away. I mean, probably jetpack, but okay, 20 hours of straight riding at 25 miles an hour? Well, that would kill the horse, but even assuming that's supernatural speed, that makes this the next day. Well, that could track. Alicent at least seems to be wearing a new overrobe in the next scene. But it can't be 2 days later because then Rhaenyra would be invading. Well, whatever the case, Ormond's army is still too far from King's Landing for any of this to matter. Well, anyway, in the next scene, Alicent needs Aemond to leave King's Landing ahead of the secret invasion, so she literally just tells Aemond that Rhaenyra is invading and he isn't safe. Yeah, so there was never need for any secrecy. Okay. Regardless, this makes no sense, and I think the writers just got Helena's prophecy wrong. I don't think Helena misspoke before. I think now the prophecy is Aemond will die by Rhaenyra's dragons. Yes, in Season 2, Episode 8, Helena told Aemond that he would die at the God's Eye, and not that he would die by Rhaenyra's dragons. Telling him that Rhaenyra's dragons are coming to King's Landing should change absolutely nothing. The God's Eye is what he should fear. That is, unless they're changing the prophecy. Yeah, but you're discounting the fact that Alicent makes out with Aemond. You know, there's that. I guess.
Helena's master plan comes together. Anyway, not to be outdone by a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, we get Ulf the White taking a shit. And the checklist returns with Alice Rivers and even the fucking Green Man. The goat too. Yeah, but I think the goat is Alice Rivers, so we don't need to count her twice. Anyway, over on Dragonstone, Rhaenyra hears about the gullet and wants to go and fly there for battle. But Jace thinks it's too dangerous, so he convinces one of the Queen's Guard to bar the door, so he and Baela can fly off in Rhaenyra's stead. Doesn't Rhaenyra's room have 2 doors? Like, you can see it right there. Maybe that's a closet? No. In Season 2, Episode 2, Auric specifically looks through the second door, then locks it before entering and attacking from the first. There's definitely 2 doors. Maybe no one bothered to remove the key from Auric's pocket and it was buried with him? Yeah, that's stupid.
And oh man, the rest of the episode is the Battle of the Gullet, which was awesome! I mean, not that cutaway to Rhaenyra where she quotes Elizabeth I and complains about her feeble womanly body, and not Wet Blanket Rhaena, but, you know, everything else was really awesome. Tense going through the canyon scene, father from Raised by Wolves having a boss battle with Philosophy Tube, a really sad and beautiful death for Jace. The battle saved the episode.
Nearly.
Ryan Condal's not your bitch.